son. I promise. You can say this will help you across the
This movie was made at the time or shortly after the Freedom Riders were in Mississippi. The movie was actually made during this time of social change when the civil rights movement was sort of beginning to generate its power. And Roger selected this book because it dealt with the power of the outside agitator and the kind of an effect that people from outside could bring into these little communities. Now, an interesting thing about it was that when Roger finished the film, he had a release arranged with Pathé. But when Pathé saw the content of the film, they refused to release it, even though they had block booking and could release it with other movies and make the theaters in the South accept the film. They were afraid of backlash. So Roger's deal fell through and he found himself sitting with a film that he couldn't release. It took him some while to find ways to try and extricate some of his own money that he had put into the making of the movie. And it was finally released under a number of different titles. In England, it was called The Stranger. I saw it once in a downtown theater booked with Poor White Trash as an exploitation film, and it was called I Hate Your Guts. It also had the wonderful title of Shame. And then it sort of vanished for a long while until Roger sold it and sort of unloaded it.
Okay, is your microphone on? Let me see here.
I think so.
It seems to be. All right. So you were hanging around with Roger Corman, doing movies. What was the name of the movie that you were in?
It was called The Intruder. The Intruder, written by Charles Beaumont, based on his novel.
And what year, when was that? That was in the mid-60s?
No, that was 60, 61 in there.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yes, yes. Many, many, many moons. I got in a little red Volkswagen with Charles Beaumont and drove to Charleston, Missouri, where I quickly accommodated myself to Roger Corman in the making of this movie.
And that movie was shot in Missouri?
Yes.
Huh.
Parts of it in a little town called Charleston, part of it in a little town called East Prairie. We were thrown out of Charleston by the local authorities.
How come?
Actually, we were felt menaced. Our very lives, we thought perhaps were in some trouble there.
Because of the theme of the film?
And also because of the fact that we were just filmmakers who'd come there, so that at night when the locals would tour around those freeways, sort of driving around and around that motel, we kind of got the feeling like they could be plotting against us. And there was a tremendous sense of paranoia amongst all the actors because we were giving away the script a page at a time. Especially to the locals and to the various people when we wanted to rent the school, to use the school, for example.
So
we
you
showed
hired
them the scenes that took place in the school.
local people for extras?
Local people. But we also, and also just to hire, just to be able to buy facilities and to use places. So we had to get permissions and make deals and pay money. And the sense was that we're in real trouble here because it's leaking out that we're making a film against discrimination. You know, we were making a segregationist film. And the local area was, of course, Mason-Dixon line and all of that. So at one time, a couple of young people that I'd met in one of the restaurants downtown came out late in the evening and knocked on my motel door and invited me to go with them. Wanted to go hang out, show me the sights, so to speak. And Charles advised me not to, because God knows what they're all thinking out there. But I went with them, no problems. I pretended to be the lout that I played. I played my character, so to speak, and went out with them and drove around, sat down near the Mississippi River, heavy with insects and insect noise. Talked for several hours with these people about Hollywood and about movies and about movie actors. It was very, very exciting. But the general feeling that everyone else had was one of real great paranoia, that these people don't mean us any good. And it got intenser the longer we went on with it, because they threw us out of the school, wouldn't let us use the school once they found out what the subject matter was, and we had to steal some shots over at the park and pretend that the park was the schoolhouse, so that when we were shooting one way it was the park, all those trees, and in another place it was just a shed that that was the makeup for the school. We shot part of it here and part of it there and tried to match it.
If I move down a couple of chairs.
Okay, here we go. I'm George Clayton Johnson, and I have the honor of playing that racist bigot in the film, the one that smiled at everybody.